Thank you. Good morning. Bill asked me if I should share something of my kind of testimony, and rather than kind of be here all kind of morning going through that, I just want to tell you just a very brief couple of things. So I became a Christian when I was about 8. I was very fortunate. My mum and dad always went to church, always kind of involved in church. So from being very little, I always knew about the Lord. And sort of being a teenager and hearing different people's testimonies of how they've been saved from kind of knives and drugs and all this kind of stuff, thinking, oh, my testimony is a bit dull by comparison. But then you later come to realise, no, God was just so gracious to me in saving me from ever doing and being a part of any of those things. And the kind of kindness and the faithfulness of God. But in one sense, kind of having lived kind of my life in going to church all the time and kind of being around kind of God's people, you kind of hear language that Christians use all the time, trust the Lord, which is true, isn't it? Trust the Lord. But invariably, well, actually always, trusting the Lord is only something that you have to do when life is hard. When you realise that you can't do something on your own, that's at the point really where trust in the Lord becomes something that you know you have to do, and is actually then a really challenging thing to do. You see, to trust somebody other than yourself is always difficult for us. Before we came to Hollywood, which is on South Birmingham, not across the ocean, before we came to Birmingham, we were in a place called Kirkcaldy on the east coast of Scotland. And when we got a call to come down to Hollywood, we knew it was the right thing. We knew that God was in it, and for us to kind of move back to the Midlands. But there were some things that we had to work out. We lived in a 3-bed flat in Kirkcaldy, which cost about £90,000. A house in Withall, about the same sort of size, would cost about £300,000. So straight away, Jane, my wife, says, "Where are we going to live?" I don't know, but the Lord is going to work it out. We'll have to trust the Lord. We knew it was going to be hard. Our son was in education. The education system in Scotland is very different to that in England. They do more years at primary school. They start earlier. They don't have reception year. And so Josh, our son, was in the kind of early years of education in Scotland. Now in Scotland, wherever you live, the school, your most local school, have to give you an education place for your child. If they have to open a new class for your child, then that is what they have to do. In England, it doesn't quite work the same. And so Jane said, where will Josh go to school? There was 2 primary schools in Hollywood, both of which were full, both of which had a very good reputation, and both of which, when we first contacted them, said, we can't consider your application until you have an address. So priority number 1, find somewhere to live. The school's finished in Scotland at the end of June, and so we were moving over the summer to come and start in Hollywood in September. It got to the second week of August. We still had nowhere to live, and we didn't have a school place for Joshua. And I'm saying to Jane, trust the Lord. It's getting hard at this point. We're phoning different education authorities. They're all telling us at this point, you're going to have to consider homeschooling. Thinking, we don't want to homeschool, neither of us are teachers, we can't afford to homeschool, Jane needs to go and get a job, we can't do this. Lord, we're trusting you. We don't know how this is going to end. We were on a summer camp on the east coast in the middle of August. We still had nowhere to live. We had 2 days in Birmingham, in Hollywood, to go and find somewhere to live. By this point, we'd given up the idea of trying to buy somewhere. We knew we had to rent a house. Our house had sold in Scotland, so we were going home from camp to do a holiday club for our last church, to pack up and move, but nowhere to go. Jane, I, 2 kids, one nowhere to go for school. So Jane, my wife, phoned up loads of houses for us to go and visit to rent. We went to all of them that we could get into. Some of them had gone, they'd been taken in the morning. We had pitched up at some of these houses and thinking, there's no way we can live here. We had exhausted everything. We were sat in the car thinking, well, we've got to go back to Scotland in the morning because I'm running a holiday club in 2 days' time. We've still nowhere to live, still no school place for Joshua. And I said to Jane, let's just go back on Rightmove and have a look if there's anything else. We found a house to rent. We turned up at the house and we phoned the agents and we said, can we view it? We're here now. No, you can't view until tomorrow afternoon. We can't be here tomorrow afternoon. I said to Jane, well, let's just trust the Lord. Let's get out and go and look through the window If it looks all right, we'll phone them up and take it. Jane said, we're mad. I said, yeah, probably, but let's trust the Lord. So we got out, walked up the path, looking through the front window, and then suddenly we hear a voice. It was a man who said, can I help you? Yeah, we're just having a look through the windows because we need a house to rent, and this might be it. And he said, well, I own it. Let me go and get the keys. So he went and showed us around this house. Within half an hour, we'd been down to the letting agents, paid the deposit, agreed a moving-in date, and we moved in. So, tick number one. Still no school place for our son Joshua. So we moved down to Hollywood 2 weeks later, moved into this house, still got to find somewhere for school. Josh had now been off school for 10 weeks. If you've got children of your own, you know that 10 weeks of not being at school is not a wonderful kind of experience. And my wife is ordering off Amazon, kind of teach your child maths books and things like that, thinking, what on earth are we going to do? Trust the Lord. And I said to Jane, Josh is going to go to the school that's nearest to the church. She said, you're crazy. There's a waiting list of more than 20 people. They've told us it's full. It's an outstanding school. There's no chance he's getting in there. We were phoning various education authorities. We were living in Birmingham, but the school we wanted to go to was in Worcestershire because we live right on the boundary. And they said, sorry, there's no way you're going to get into any Worcestershire school because you live in Birmingham. We phoned a Birmingham Education Authority and they said, we can offer you a school, but it's on the north of Birmingham. At this point we had one car. This was 3 bus journeys to get to school. By the time Jane had got back home with our daughter Bethany, it had been time to get back on the bus to travel back to go and fetch him at the end of the day. We said, well, we can't do that. You'll have to homeschool. I said, Jess, we're not homeschooling. Josh is going to go to that school. So she said, well, I don't know what you're going to do about it. So I said, well, let's just trust the Lord. Trusting the Lord is hard, isn't it? We got in the car, the school started back on the Thursday. We pitched up at the school Friday morning. We walked into reception. I said, please, can somebody speak to us because our son needs to start school. And the lady looked at me and said, I've been trying to phone you. Can he start on Monday? Jane gave her a kiss. We went off to the uniform shop, bought the uniform, and he started at school on the Monday. Why was I told that story? Trusting in God is hard. Not because God is not reliable, but that we like to be in control, don't we? We like to know the end from the beginning about everything. Trust is always hard, whether it be trusting over somewhere to live, trusting over a school place for your children, trusting over your health or the health of a loved one. It's hard because trust is always about something that you can't control. But my experience, I became a Christian when I was kind of young, and I'm not young anymore, not so young anyway, is that when we put our trust in God, he is faithful and he's kind and he's good. And sometimes he takes us to the very end of ourselves where we're just about to think, I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this is going to end. But God is always reliable. God is always faithful. And God is always trustworthy. That's a testimony from me. Thank you. Thank you.